Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. In this episode, John discusses why we need to stop calling the Great Resignation a labor shortage and start calling it a turnover crisis. In this week's episode, you'll learn why customer experience strong should be your company's highest priority right now, why overall customer satisfaction has hit a 15-year low, what are the two biggest mistakes companies are making right now, and how performance is contagious. Now here's your host, John DiJulius.
The state of service. What has been going on the past 2 years? Since the pandemic, customer satisfaction has been dropping, sinking like the Titanic. The ACSI, American Customer Satisfaction Index, shows that in Q1 of this year, we hit a 15-year low in customer satisfaction. It's pretty serious. Why? We always got to start with why. What's going on? Why the deterioration in customer service? We have employee burnout, low employee morale, high employee turnover, staff shortages, poor reactive hiring, filling positions. Then we're just throwing them in their positions, no time to train them, or the training we do is only technical, but they're not delivering the experience any longer that made your company special. Supply chain issues, and we're not managing customers' expectations. That sound familiar to anyone? Yeah. All of these ends up pissing off our customer. And you've been the customer experiencing all of those. And we're guilty as businesses of that. Oh, on top of that, those 8 issues, we are in the midst of the Great Resignation era. There's now 10 million vacancies. The Great Resignation era is a mass exodus of our workforce who are voluntarily choosing to quit, which has to be addressed. So that's why I've created the villain, the pain. I've depressed us all. I'm going to bring it back. Don't worry. That is why our theme for this year is CX Strong, customer experience strong. Because now more than ever, we need this. Customer experience strong is the companies that will dominate their industries for the next decade are the ones who are obsessed with evolving the experience they provide to both employees and customers. Let me say that again. The companies that will dominate for the next decade, and I believe the next decade will be like the roaring 20s, if we're positioned right, are the ones that are obsessed with evolving. A new reality here. What used to work isn't working anymore. So, the conference, the theme, CX Strong, how? Right? Nothing matters unless we show you how. We have 2 primary pillars on the how that we are focused on. Prioritizing your employee culture and making your customer experience your strongest competitive advantage. Stop calling it a labor shortage. It is a turnover crisis. A labor shortage is if there was more jobs ever increased and we had significantly less population employees out there to fill them. That's not the problem. People are choosing to quit. That's not a labor shortage. And we can't have, and I've been guilty of this, having a victim mentality. and blaming government and spending and benefits and taking too long and horrible Gen Zs. No, we have to stop using it as a crutch and say, well, it's a labor shortage. We got to stop letting our leaders use this as a crutch, and we have to own it. What does a turnover crisis look like? 15 million workers quit since April, just since April. And there's no signs that that's slowing down. 41% more employees currently employed are considering quitting. And that number goes up to 54% when we talk about Gen Zs. And who left the workforce? 885,000 women compared to 216,000 men. There's an advantage to that, all you ladies. There's an advantage of sticking with it, opportunities. I hate losing the women, right? But there is an advantage to the ones that are staying. The pandemic was like a professional awakening. I compare it to people that have survived near-death experiences. Employees are reevaluating their professional careers, and they're trying to decide what they really want, and more importantly, what they're not willing to tolerate. Here's the two biggest mistakes. If you don't write down anything else, write this down. The two biggest mistakes companies are doing to combat the Great Resignation is they're filling positions with anyone with a pulse and keeping poor performers. Just going out there and filling positions or keeping poor performers. You can't hire your way out of a poor culture. You can only make it worse because you'll lose your good employees. It is better to lose the sale than lose the reputation. I'd rather have to turn you away because I don't have enough employees to handle as many clients, customers, guests as demand. Because there's something to that too that makes you want it even more. Hopefully you'll give us a second chance, another chance. But you know what? If our business takes you and gives you to a crap consultant, hairdresser, whatever the business model is, you'll never be back. And you'll be doing brand terrorism and telling everyone. This is the hardest thing for a leader to say, but it's better to lose the sale than the reputation. Because the sale's temporary, the reputation is permanent.
You're listening to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. You've probably read all of John's books, so you're obviously passionate about the customer experience. Have you ever considered a career as a customer experience coach? The DiJulius Group can train and license you in the same methodology that our consultants use. It's the same framework that's being used in companies like Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, Nestle, and the Ritz-Carltons. Our Coach Camp gives you the tools to start your own business as a CX coach. If you're ready to invest in your future and build a business around your passion for the customer experience, contact Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com or visit cxcoaching.com.
How many people agree with this quote? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Raise your hand. I love this quote. I say this all the time. I say it to my employees. I say it to my kids, my 3 boys, right? We say it to our kids, I'm sure, all the time. Now, let me ask you something. Who do we think is responsible for the 5 people they spend the most time with? You, the person, my kid, right? My employees. I agree with all that until I had an epiphany. Our employees don't get to choose who they work with. Think about that. We could blame who you're hanging around with, but you spend all day, whether it's in work or virtually, with people you didn't choose. And what if they're in a toxic environment? What if there's bad attitudes, poor performers, pissers and moaners, critics and cynics? This is stupid. We shouldn't do this. We're getting ripped off. All those things, providing poor experiences, all of a sudden, your employee is going to become the average. And so we got to take that as a burden of responsibility because our employees don't get to choose. We choose for them, which, man, when I thought about that, I'm like, holy cow. All right, finish this. Employees do not quit companies. They quit people. Yes, they quit, man, but they quit each other. If I got to work next to with Brittany one more day, she's sucking the life out of me. About Dylan. Just kidding. Brittany's a rock star. But right, we have that. You've had that. You probably have it right now. A negative Nancy. So people don't just quit leaders. They quit each other. And it's our responsibility to guard the culture that we keep our top performers in and allow, and I call it the 30-foot high fence with barbed wire on it. We don't want to be for everyone. We're not for everyone, nor do we want to be. So there was a study done where they had a high-performing team, okay, individually and as a team, right? They brought in a hired actor as a new employee and put that hired actor, negative Nancy, those are horns, devil horns, with that team to see what the results would be. And negative Nancy was like questioning, making fun of your answers, looking at the phone. This is stupid. Guess what happens to the high performers? Their individual performances all went down. They started shutting up because negative Nancy said, have you ever been in leadership before? And all of a sudden they withdrew because they felt like what they were saying was stupid. And she was criticizing everything. Performance is contagious. So by keeping someone that you shouldn't, right, it's spreading.
Thanks for listening and being part of the customer service revolution. Be sure to subscribe now so you don't miss an episode. You can find the Customer Service Revolution podcast on Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts.